Salvete omnes, mihi nominis Fimbria. This is my project on Hannibal, and my ancient source is going to be Polybius. This is Polybius. He lived between 200 BC and 118 BC. In his magnum opus, The Histories, covered events in Roman history between 264 BC and 146 BC. Polybius chose Hannibal in order to portray the idea that one of the most important qualities of a great leader is a strong will in the face of adversity. So who was Hannibal? He was a Carthaginian general. He was known for being incredibly brave during his expeditions through Rome, and he lived between 247 BC and 183 BC. And yeah, he did a long campaign through Rome. It was very treacherous, so Hannibal faced many challenges through his time there. And his courageous show of force included completing a journey thought to be impossible through the Alps in stunning fashion. In wartime Rome, Hannibal was seen as indefatigable. In order to understand what was so brave, let's dive into the Second Punic War. So Carthage was in a period of economic collapse for two reasons. One, they owed a lot of debt to Rome. Second, war costs money, and losing it costs even more money. So it was paying back Rome and the costs of war. So how did they fix the problem? Hamilcar Barca, Hannibal's father, had a brilliant idea. Invade Spain. Why not? So his motive was to capture the silver deposits in Hispania and pay back their debt in silver, all while building the Carthaginian Empire. Or maybe it was to exact revenge on the Romans, which seems more likely given that there was a Second Punic War. Either way, Carthage will be paying the Romans back. And Hannibal's going to be coming with him. And they're pretty successful. Hamilcar and young Hannibal invade Hispania, allowing Hannibal to become militarily experienced. He becomes pretty successful in battle and a general at a pretty young age. So with silver flowing from the mines, New Carthage was greatly successful in building up a Barcid branch of Carthage that was semi-free from the meddling old Carthaginians like Hanno. Hamilcar and later Hannibal gained immense power and influence through this conquest. But Hamilcar dies. He was tragically ambushed at a river and drowned, leaving his son-in-law and maybe lover, Hasdrubal, to take over the oversight of New Carthage. The most important element of Hasdrubal's reign is foreign relations with Rome. He signs the Ebro Treaty, which leaves Carthage with the land south of the Ebro River and Rome with the land to the north, as you can see in this map. Oh no, in 221 BC, Hasdrubal dies, so 26-year-old Hannibal takes over the Carthaginian armies in Hispania. According to Polybius, his men loved him and had immense loyalty for him. He successfully oversaw the payment of debts back to Rome and the stabilization and growth of the Carthaginian Empire. But tensions were high. Any spark could easily be fanned into the flame of war. With massive successes coming out of Hannibal's New Carthage, Rome was leery of the threat Carthage posed. Meanwhile, in Saguntum was a small city on the eastern coast of Hispania. It had previously had internal political disputes which were resolved by the Romans. The only issue for Rome was that it was south of the Ebro River, meaning it was all fair game for Hannibal to snatch up. Rome had an alliance with Saguntum, however, and formally declared itself as its protector, encroaching on what had been decreed as Carthaginian territory. So Hannibal threatened to take Saguntum, which maybe the Romans had goaded him into. And he laid siege on Saguntum for 8 months. Afterwards, he massacres the Saguntines. Because Rome was their formal protector, this was considered an act of war. Which war? The Second Punic War. The Romans sent a delegation of their greatest senators to Carthage to negotiate to stop the war. It didn't work. The leaders of the Romans said to Carthage, Fabius Maximus said, I hold here in the folds of my toga 2 choices, peace or war. Which shall you choose? The Carthaginians in Old Carthage, led by Hanno, went the direction of war. So the Roman approach to war was two-pronged. First, send Consul Longus down to Carthage proper and invade there. Second, to send Consul Scipio to neuter Hannibal from spreading his influence any further. What could he possibly do? Cross the Alps? No, that would be ridiculous and entail a long and arduous journey through cold temperatures and rough terrain, not to mention with elephants. Who would do that? Hannibal would do that with 50,000 men, 37 elephants, and a lot of horses. All of them had to cross the most hostile mountain range in Europe. It was completely unexpected and incredibly bold. And he was left with about half of the men that he had when entering the Alps, and some seriously traumatized elephants. Without reinforcements and after one of the most daring military tactics in history, Hannibal invaded Rome. Which, remember, is a bad thing. Don't root for Hannibal. So some highlights of this campaign. At Cannae, above 50% of the participants in the battle died, most of them Roman. The world would not see the same amount of deaths in battle in one day until the Battle of the Somme during World War I. Using this metric, Hannibal was the most deadly non-machine gun general in history. However, at Zama, the Carthaginian army was wiped out to the point that they couldn't meaningfully oppose Rome. The war effectively ended at Zama, with Scipio defeating Hannibal. However, returning to the thesis, we can now understand Hannibal's bravery. Clearly, his march through the Alps was a daring show of bravery and risk, but Polybius centered his description of Hannibal around the pre-war intrigue. That is, to go to war with Rome is perhaps the bravest thing Hannibal did. So this is the quote. For 2 months they remained stationary, without any action more decisive than shooting at each other every day. But as Hannibal kept on announcing to Hannibal by fire signals and the messengers from the city that the population could not support the famine, and that deserters to the enemy were numerous owing to privation, the Carthaginian general decided to risk battle. Polybius clearly believed in Hannibal's bravery. Polybius adopts a tone of a sort of admiration, indicating bravery even when fearful. Remember, Hanno is one of the leaders of Carthage during the time that Hamilcar, through Hannibal, is leading New Carthage. Hanno's interests frequently opposed Hannibal's, and as a young general, Hannibal had to make an incredibly difficult decision. However, for the glory of his empire and Carthage as a whole, he decided to go to war with the Romans over Saguntum, which he was previously just besieging, a town that the new Carthaginians didn't really need, but had the courage to fight for. But instead, they invaded, showing immense bravery from Hannibal to go against the greatest empire in the world. And here are my citations. Thank you so much.